Alrighty, gang. Here's to nights that turn into mornings and friends that turn into family. Cheers!
Happy birthday to you.
Hello. Welcome to the Friendship IRL podcast. I'm your host, Alex Alexander, and each week we explore what's working and what's not in our friendships, community, and connections. Have you ever wished you could sit down and have a conversation about what is really going on in your friendships? Well, you found your people. Join us as we dive into real-life stories and explore new ways to approach these connections. Together, we're reimagining the rules of friendship. We often hear this phrase when it comes to our friendships, right? This idea of quality over quantity. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like that phrase is everywhere. In fact, the inspiration for today's episode was that I was scrolling last night and I saw a reel in which somebody was talking about how all they want is quality over quantity. And I was just thinking to myself, like, what is quality? Because I get what that person is trying to say. I get, this idea of I don't need very many friends. I just need a few friends, right? I need a few quality friends. Or I want to get a quality hangout in with my friends. I think that would make a lot of us think of a stretch of time that is uninterrupted where we can really dive deep into conversation. And I'm not saying that either of those are bad things, but when I hear this idea of quality friendships, it just really grates on me. So I started thinking about it. I started challenging this assumption about what quality means. And the more I got into it, the more I was like, this is a podcast episode. Everybody needs to hear this. We need to be talking about this. So that's what we're going to do today. I really want to talk about this idea of quality over quantity. What does that actually mean? And is the way that we're thinking about it, is that advice actually limiting us? What a crazy thought. Now, the first thing I want to dive into is this idea of just having a few quality friends. And I think the traditional view there is you have this either little group of friends, maybe 2, 3, 4 friends, or maybe it is 2, 3, 4 separate friendships. They aren't a group. I don't think it matters either way. But those friendships are kind of this all-encompassing friend, right? They are people who you talk to all the time. You're in the text threads with them. You feel like you can talk to them about just about anything. They would be there for you, right? You have all this emotional intimacy and really strong beliefs about your friendship. Does that track for you? Because I think that's a pretty common way to view the idea of having quality friends. However, I want you to reconsider the term quality because my question to you would be, if you had one friend who maybe wasn't your closest friend, they're someone you've just met, you've only known them a few months, they've never been in your dirty house before, right? You're still in the stage where you are pulling yourself together. You haven't let them in fully, but that friend gets you in one area of your life that you feel like no one else really gets you. That could be if you are a new parent. Maybe you're the first person in your friend group to have a baby. And none of your friends really get it, right? They don't understand what the late night wake ups are like. They don't understand the pressures, don't understand the way that you walk into the doctor's office and you don't have a name anymore. You're just mom or dad. They don't get it because they're not experiencing the same things. Having another friend who is a new parent or is a parent hits on the exact part of your life that is the most all-consuming right now. And that might be a quality friendship to you in this moment. In fact, it might be one of the most vital sanity-saving friendships you have in this moment, even if it is only someone you are friends with for a year, 6 months, a couple years. This might be such a quality friendship because it's exactly what you need. It gives you one specific area of support or connection. Now, another example of this would be maybe you've experienced a loss. I'm about to get in the car actually and go help a friend who lost her spouse recently. I'm going to go stay with her this week. And I've experienced a lot of loss. And I have also helped a lot of people after loss, probably because I experienced loss so young that I've always been there for people, right? It's like the club I don't want anybody to join, but everyone inevitably is going to join. And so when somebody joins this club and experiences a significant loss, whether that's a parent, a child, a spouse, I get it. I understand that when I go there, or maybe when I went there, like when I went there right after she experienced this loss, when she asked me to show up, to get in the car and go, and I did, she knew that I have experienced this and I would understand what I was walking into, right? Now, I think we have a quality friendship overall. That is a long-standing friendship. But in that moment of her life, it honestly doesn't really matter that we've been friends for, 20 years, 18 years, something like that. That actually doesn't matter as much because what matters is I'm really good, not to toot my own horn, but I'm really good at supporting someone in a crisis moment. That, nothing else really matters, to be quite honest. Any other friend that she's known for that long could show up. But if they're not good in that crisis moment, if they don't understand how to show up and help and how to navigate that dynamic and the fact that the house is going to feel weird and awkward and there's going to be moments where you're all sitting around numb, staring at the wall. And then also moments of panic and doing things. If somebody doesn't understand that, that's not really quality for her in that moment. And so the reframe here is that sometimes quality is specificity, not comprehensiveness. And it's knowing those moments when it's okay to throw away this traditional viewpoint of an all-encompassing friend who just gets all the parts of you and be like, you know what? I love you and I appreciate those friends that I have. But in this moment, what I need is something very, very specific. And that's all that matters to me. So the next aha moment I had is actually this idea of quality being effortless, right? Because I do think that's a piece of it too. Sometimes we're like, oh, it's a really quality friendship because it just feels easy. Everything seems to flow. And I do think that sometimes we just maybe click a little better with other people. But sometimes I think some people are better at just clicking with people, right? Some people are better at going with the flow or reading cues, things like that. If that's not you, that's okay. That's okay. It's not a necessary skill. Make friends with more people who are the other type. That will make it feel more effortless. People who are better at communication. But when we have this idea of effortless and easy, I think there's also this idea of no vulnerability, right? Because if there's no awkward moments, we don't have to feel vulnerable. But I would venture to say that the reality is actually that a friendship feels effortless because you have put in so much effort in navigating the weird situations that it actually just kind of becomes normal to navigate the weird situations. So if you're like, Alex, what the heck does that mean? I want to give you an example. Remember when I said that some people are just really practiced at this? I think I'm one of these people. This episode was really not meant to be about me, but I want to give you a story. So a friend of mine was moving. She was moving across the world. And so she was putting all of her belongings in a storage unit. Now, this was not one of my closest, oldest, longest, deepest friendships. This is actually someone I haven't known for that long. But I do really enjoy her company. And she was running out of time before her flight out of the country, and we kept trying to make plans, and she had a lot going on, right? She was packing up her life and trying to figure out what she needed and dealing with like insurance and flights and where she's staying, all these things. So totally fair that she didn't have time to get together. But we got to this point where she had, I don't know, 48 hours left. And she said, I really would love to see you, but I don't have, right, that chunk of time. I said, that's not a problem. What are some things you need to do? What are some errands? And she's like, well, this is kind of weird, but I need to go to my storage unit. And I don't like the way that the movers packed it. So I need to kind of move stuff around. She's like, you don't have to help me, but we could chat while I move stuff around in my storage unit. And I was like, heck yeah, let's go. Pick me up. So she picks me up and we go, and we're having, right, just a casual time in the car, chatting it up. I'm asking her questions about her trip, and she's asking me questions about what's going on in my life, whatnot. We arrive at the storage unit, and as we are walking to her specific unit, we pass this man. Now, this man, super nice guy, but his unit had just been broken into, and he was real fired up, and all of her belongings are in this place. Like, she's leaving in 48 hours. She doesn't really have time to move all of her belongings. But this nice gentleman proceeds to tell us that a bunch of units in the building have been broken into, and he's adding additional locks, and this is what was stolen. That's kind of an awkward, high stress moment, right? It's not my belongings. I have no stake in this, but I'm just there as my friend is getting more and more anxious about the fact that she's about to leave the country in a place where all of her stuff might get stolen. Or at least some of it. That interaction, we talked about it later. We recovered. We were fine. I talked to her about, the pros and cons. Should she move her stuff, this, that, and the other thing? I'm not going to say it felt completely effortless, but it didn't feel that terrible. That was a very vulnerable moment, especially for her. And it was an awkward moment because now her anxiety is through the roof. But because I have put myself in so many really weird situations with my friends, I had an understanding of how to navigate it in a way that made it as close to effortless as we could, because that could have completely derailed the hangout, and it didn't. So I guess the reframe here is that friendships feeling as close to effortless as possible is actually a muscle that you build. And in a great world, in an ideal world, you build that together with your friend, but you building that muscle will also serve you in other friendships. So friendships feel effortless when you don't blink twice when something weird comes up, because you have built the muscle to navigate through the awkwardness. And I think that is quality. That makes you a quality friend if you can kind of roll with it. And it makes it a really quality friendship if you two can put yourself in situations sometimes where you can actually work on developing that muscle together, right? That could be going on a trip with a new friend. It could be going to their storage unit. It could be helping them out in a scenario where they feel really out of their depth, right? If they're not a car person and they have a bunch of car questions, going with them and answering questions and trying to help them, that is the kind of thing that builds that muscle. Now, the third and final reframe to the idea of quality is talking about quality time. Because again, I think that the traditional view here is that the idea when it comes to quality over quantity is finding these uninterrupted pockets of time with friends, right? I want you to come over for dinner or for a dinner party. Let's go on a weekend trip together where we can get away from it all. Let's get coffee and silence our phones. Now, I love those moments with my friends. I love when we can get uninterrupted time, or honestly, like curated time around a certain interest or activity or thing that we're going to do together. But the problem is that it can be really hard to find uninterrupted pockets of time. And that creates a lot of pressure, especially if you're trying to do that for multiple people. And there's a lot of advice out there, right? That's just like, well, if it's a priority, like you gotta find those pockets. Do it when you can. But I guess the reframe I have for you here is that quality can also be integration. It can be folding your friends into your life. Quality could be going grocery shopping together. I have a friend, and I think she had heard me talk about this idea of grocery shopping together, but it wasn't until we were walking the aisles that she really understood what I was talking about. We were going on a work trip, actually. So we had both driven separately. We met at the grocery store near the Airbnb we had booked, and we went inside to just get food for the couple days that we were there. We weren't even cooking every meal, but we needed like breakfast and snacks and things. And you're like, yeah, Alex, go grocery shopping together. But here's the thing about grocery shopping together. You learn so much about your friends and their preferences. So we're walking through the store, we're pushing through, and she's like, oh, okay, I need to get some coffee, right? I love coffee. I need a couple cups in the morning. And what kind of coffee do you like? Let's get a coffee that we both like. And I was like, honestly, I don't really drink coffee. I'm a tea gal. And in fact, my favorite is iced tea. And then we're rolling through talking about like what we both like to eat for breakfast and our favorite snack foods. And, oh, you know, I have these health problems. So I can't eat that thing, but I can eat this one. And we're navigating all this together. And now still to this day, right? She will be maybe driving to meet me somewhere, and she'll be stopping for a cup of coffee, and she'll text me and be like, do you want an iced tea? And she learned that because we were grocery shopping together. Some other examples of this integration could be airport pickups. I do this a lot with some friends, and I love it because especially when you're busy, maybe trying to get out of town, or if these people work a lot, it kind of gives me a built-in 20, 30 minute, I don't live that far from the airport, so 20, 30 minute hangout, right? We are trapped in the car. And honestly, that is uninterrupted time normally. There's nothing else except us driving and talking. So if there's somewhere you can drive, that is some uninterrupted time quite often. It could be being there for a friend's medical appointment. Maybe you're the person that drives them home, or, you know, they need to take their car in to get serviced. And if you're a single person, offer your single friends this. Number one, like absolutely go offer your single friends that you will drive them places. They need that offer. But two, if you are a person that is in a relationship, maybe ask someone else. Why not? It creates a little more intimacy and vulnerability, because the fact is that real life is messier and more vulnerable than coffee dates. And so when we integrate our friends in, my question to you is like, isn't quality connecting beyond just this kind of like curated list of questions we ask each other at dinner or over coffee? Isn't quality like actually knowing what your friend's life is like and what's going on and being there for them? Because I would say that's just as quality as an uninterrupted pocket of time. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, Alex, that's great. My friends don't live nearby. I just wanted to mention that like a long distance version of this could be when you're cooking dinner, just propping open your computer and letting it be open while you both cook dinner, or while you fold laundry, or while you calling each other in the car, talking to each other while you're running errands, even if it means you have to hang up multiple times when you're at the checkout line. Please hang out the checkout line. Drives me nuts when people talk on the phone while the checker's there. That's just my pet peeve. It's a pet peeve of mine. My hope with all of this is that it actually just helps you reduce some of your friendship anxiety, if that's what you're feeling, because now what we've created is less overthinking about fitting these like perfect friendship moments into our busy schedule, less pressure to curate the perfect hangout. You don't need to spend weeks creating this like themed murder mystery luau dinner party. Not necessary. Just ask them to drive you to your doctor's appointment. Same, both quality. I promise. There's less anxiety when you do hang out and that hangout starts to go off the rails. So if you do have that uninterrupted pocket of time and you have made like a dinner reservation and it gets canceled, or your friend has car trouble and they can't make it, you just pivot, right? Because you've developed that effortless muscle where you're less panicked about it being exactly what you thought it was going to be because you've been in some weird and awkward situations. So when they have car trouble, you're like, hey, it's fine. I'll come pick you up. And like, actually, do you need me to drive you to the auto body shop? You know, if your car is getting towed there and you're going with your car, do you need me to pick you up and drive you home? That can be our friend hangout tonight. I would say that is quality. That is what we are dying for deep down inside. We just need to reframe our belief that the only way that we get valuable quality time with our friends is if we're just sitting down staring at each other with no interruptions. And the final way that I hope this reduces some friendship anxiety for you is it's permission to be imperfect in your friendship efforts. And if I'm going to take that a step further, it is permission to stop performing friendship and to just be in friendship. And I want to let that breathe for a second, because sometimes I think that this idea of quality has us trying to perform what we think is the perfect version of friendship that will make us feel more connected, and actually being so hyper-focused on the performance of it and the outcome of it rather than just rolling with it makes us come home and feel kind of disconnected. So my challenge to you this week, you probably won't be shocked by this at all, but it's to think about where you can integrate your friends into your actual life. I'm actually not even asking you to do it. You can, that's like bonus points. But I think it would be great if this week you could just try and identify as many places where you could integrate your friends into your actual life. And or the other thing you can reflect on this week is there an area of your life that you wish you had a more specific friend for? Where might you find that person? Because at the end of the day, if you can lean into this reframe about the idea of quality, what you're actually going to find is that you don't have to choose between quality and quantity. Isn't that crazy? If you find the right quality, this more natural quality, in my opinion, it's going to lead to more quantity because you're going to let people in, whether it's because they are supporting you in a very specific area of your life, or because it is easier to fold them into your life, or because you aren't as scared that if you run into an awkward, vulnerable moment, it's going to go off the rails. You will invite people in more. How crazy. What if you didn't have to choose between quality and quantity? With that, I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Friendship IRL. I am so honored to have these conversations with you, but don't let the chat die here. Send me a voice message. I created a special website just to chat with you. You can find it at alex.chat. You can also find me on Instagram. My handle at it's Alex Alexander. Or go ahead and leave a review wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. Now, if you want to take this conversation a step further, send this episode to a friend. Tell them you found it interesting, and use what we just talked about as a conversation starter the next time you and your friend hang out. No need for a teary goodbye. I'll be back with a new episode next week.